So to continue from our previous descriptions, coming to the physiological or organic theory. A wide range of physiological theories consider the variables: brain hypoxia, hypercarbia, anorexia, endorphins, ketamine anesthetic drugs relating to NMDA receptor, abnormal activity in the temporal lobe. This all happens during this near-death experience, and each could contribute to that. So ketamine is a drug, is an anesthetic drug that blocks NMDA receptors. In its dissociative states, it's a sense of detachment from one's physical body and external world, which is called depersonalization or derealization. The higher dose of K will experience extreme dissociation with visual and auditory hallucinations are also seen with this drug, and this is possible happens in the brain. So to know a little more about the ketamine is a drug. It acts at various places in the body. There are 56 receptor sites in the brain that acts. But I'll tell a few words about this ketamine drug. This ketamine drug, when given for anesthesia, the patient does not feel any pain, but he understands things, he remembers dreams, he goes somewhere else, he sees, experiences other things. After the operation, he comes back and he can recall his experiences when he was under anesthesia. This is a drug which has got a very special characteristic, and how it works in the brain, no one really knows 100%. So during the NDE, the brain is under intense pressure. Very difficult to ascertain which way it reacts or behaves. We can learn from something from the lucid dreams. Lucid dream is a state when the dreamer is aware of the dream. So during which it shifts the different modes of regional activation during lucid dreams. And the mind is also capable of lucid self-awareness while dreaming. And the unpredictable nature of the dreaming generates conceptual novelty and innovation. This has been studied scientifically. So you can have your own conception even during dream or a different state of brain. So which can generate extreme or intense visionary experiences, and emotions and visual images also can be created. And the abnormal activity is there, all related to the temporal brain. Temporal lobe of the brain, there is scientific study that says damage and direct cortical stimulation of the temporal area are known to produce a number of experiences corresponding to those of the NDE type 1 and type 2, including out-of-body experiences, sensation of flying, hallucination, meeting with persons who are dead, and communication and memory flashback like sound and music. So if you see these films like this, obviously your brain will definitely be affected. And just have a look. This is a movie sequence from Doctor Strange. You see, he's dead, he's coming out of his body. This is a hi-fi film, scientific film. And when the person examines the body, he comes out from somewhere, his soul or the things comes out and interferes with this thing. So if you see this kind of feeling, you have a natural feeling. So this possible going out of body, or the soul going out of body, is a possible temporal lobe effect. And some research activity is still going on, not in humans, but in rats and other small animals. What they study? They study the brain activity when the death occurs. They did a controlled death. They study the brain activity, this and this and this. There are 4 stages, each lasting for 6 seconds. And they found at this stage the brain activity settles into a period of slower brain waves. At the so-called, this is called stage 3, this is called gamma activity. And gamma activity is highly synchronized brain activity. This is in animals. So these are this afterlife brain activity, because his brain is nearly dead, or it has been cardiac wise has been made dead, is also highly coordinated across the brain areas. Eh, These are natural hallmarks of high level cognitive activity and that normally associated with wakeful consciousness. And I think you all know about this famous National Geographic magazine. And there is a documentary, a research thing, Return of the Dead. This was produced by Professor Stephen Laurel of University of Liege in Belgium in association with Professor Slater of Barcelona and Dr. Mehta of King's College London. What he did, he is a neurologist. He went to various places to see how the brain behaves under this for this near death experience. So he wanted to experiment on himself. So what he did, he went to a place where his brain, he could see his eyes were, he saw it through a computer. And there is interesting findings when you go to the real video. He could feel that he was being elevated from his position. He took drugs on his body to know. Then he moved into a space vehicle, the high speed motion, causing the blood supply to the brain reduced. So how he felt? He felt he is no more there on this earth. And he studied his brain activity also, his and other also volunteers. So that's a high speed jet travel, neuropsychiatric test, drugs and simulation test. Reduced blood flow to the brain can have tunnel vision. Brain can be tricked. Drugs can make your brain feelings and memory altered. Hallucination can occur. Illusion and environments akin to the reduced blood supply to the brain can be created. So, brain is capable of well-organized electrical activity during early stages of clinical death. This indicates highly arousal mental state, or some say it is a survival activity. And there are neurochemical explanations, various explanations exist. And here is actually my experience I am going to describe to you. And this is also reported in, if you want, in NDERF, case number 4462. Details has been explained there, all my experience. But in short, I will tell you, I had a syncopal attack. During that time, I felt I am going to moving somewhere out of my body, maybe possibly in a dark place at a very high speed, following a little light far ahead in the distant vision. I do not know how and how long I traveled all the thing. Suddenly I found myself back on my body. And then I studied the literature, why it happened to me. Then I found articles written in the Lancet, the syncopal attack, and there is a correlation with near-death experience. So, and this professor also made experiment on volunteers. They induced syncope on these volunteers. You see, I can explain how you can induce syncope in you, in your brain. Syncope. Then they studied their brain activity. What happens, in which areas of the brain this is affected. You can see this is the temporal lobe. This is the temporal lobe area where there is something extraordinary is going on. So near death is not dead. The brain is not dead fully at that time. Not actually brain dead. They undergo stress, deprived of oxygen and release neurochemicals. So it is a subjective phenomenon and it occurs during the life-threatening event. So this our journeying to heaven is a pure imagination or a perception or a speculation. Well, probably more scientific study, more time will tell what is the truth. So today I say the staircase of life ends just as a wish, nothing more. So our religion upholds life after death or the soul, but science refutes the life after death. So also our Vedic scripture. And to add, if you remember the great scientist Stephen Hawking, what he said, I regard the brain as a computer which will stop working when its components fail. And